there is a beautiful prayer, okay, which is before a Vedic prayer before one starts to eat.
That prayer, and I even read that they did some scientific studies on the food, and they found that the negativity increased based on how the person ate it.
In fact, there was some Japanese, there is some video going around. I don't know if you've seen
I
it.
did it about a year ago.
Yeah.
When I used to say that prayer.
So there is a small video going around that there is this water, right? So when you have this water, you think it's just 2 hydrogen atom and 1 oxygen atom. Then when somebody was saying that when somebody is singing or one is doing the chants, then there is a sound. You see that? Yeah. So that means that we are, we think that we live in a dead universe. We are not.
But the new diet in the UK, one year West said, is a mindfulness diet.
Exactly. Absolutely. Right? So therefore, this to have, see, either
Mind what?
Mindfulness.
Yeah.
Food should look good, should smell good, should be fresh.
Yeah.
And you should only eat at that time. You eat
your
whatever
hands
comes
and feel it.
then you will feel more satisfied, then you will not be craving food the whole day. That is one of what.
And actually sitting and eating with your hands, and even if the juice trickles down, it's not about, the whole sort of
This hand thing, the way
Hand
it
thing.
evolved
Exactly.
was very important.
Absolutely. So this is what we call brahmachari means, but you become mindful. Okay? We have relationship, either I'm like totally, I don't see the value of food. Okay? I'm just obsessed with my, my figure, and it's a complete, some obsession. Okay? Or what? I cannot stop. I just go on and on and on, and I'm just like
supersizing.
So that means an activity which I do 4 times a day, I am not able to have proper relationship with it. If a simple act like eating, I'm not having a proper perspective, then the rest of my day doing so many things, right, is equally fraught with subjectivities. Brahmachari means being mindful. Every small act, simple acts that you do, it reflects about how balanced you are, how wise you are. How much mastery you have over your senses. What is the perspective that you have? Okay? So that Vedic prayer, no, it's not a Vedic prayer, it's actually in Bhagavad Gita. Okay? Before eating, you remind yourself, okay, Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavihi, Brahmagnau, Brahmanahutam, Brahmaivatena Gantavyam, Brahma Karma Samavina. Beautiful prayer. It says, in a sense, that the eater is Brahman, the food is Brahman, the digestive system which digests the food and makes it what? Something which is absorbable by and gives nourishment to the physical body and the mind is Brahman. Okay. In that very act, I evoke what? And thank the universe for making this food available to me, and do my part of consuming it with certain amount of responsibility and asking the universe to nourish me so that I can do things in the universe which are meaningful, and also what? Understand things which are necessary for me to understand.
But technically it's not Brahman, it's Ishvara.
Yes, it's Ishvara.
Yeah.
Right? But exactly. Okay, that's true. Because Ishvara also is nothing but Brahman. Right? I mean, the truth of Ishvara is also Brahman.
Yeah.
But because you are dealing with you and, you're right, absolutely, right? You and the food, and there are all this whole big intelligence which has arranged it all in a given way. As Arjuna says, technically it is Ishvara, but the truth of that Ishvara is also Brahman. Okay? So this is the awareness. This is what we call change of perspective. It is externally, a person is, everybody is eating. Okay? What goes on in your mind and what you understand, that is what makes a difference. So this is what we call mastery over senses. Does not mean you need to stay away from things. Please understand. It is to have proper perspective and proper understanding. Okay? So therefore, if one has listened to Upanishads, if one has made enough effort, right, through meditation and other reflections, right, to become that person, this is the type of a person you're going to be. What a beautiful verse.
Can you send us the prayer?
Yeah. So I will chant so that you can, if you can look at this thing, right? So it is called, it's one of the chapters. I think, I don't think here it is. Okay. So it is, I think in 4th chapter of Gita. It says, Brahmarpanam Brahmahavihi Brahmanau Brahmanahutam Brahmaivate Gantavyam Brahma Karma Samadhina. That is it. Okay. Now, there is the next verse which is similar, which I will, do you have 5 minutes? Which I will try to do. Okay. So there, here he says, here it talks a lot about mastery over senses, cheerfulness, getting over one's fears, and essential part of it is bringing Ishvara in your understanding. Now, the next verse is talking about dukkha. Dukkha is sorrow. Okay, how does one handle? With this teaching, how does one handle sorrow? Okay, so here he says, Tam vidya dukkha sanyoga viyogam yoga sanvitam sanishchayena yogdamyaha yogo nirvinna chetasa. So here he says, from this vidya, from this knowledge and from this perspective, okay, so then what happens is dukkha sanyoga viyoga. What does it mean? Okay, when people listen to Gita, many times people ask, so that means I will stop having sorrows. Just like, will I completely get rid of my fears? Will I completely get rid of my sorrows? This is something which is a very common question of people. In this compound, Lord Krishna explains how is it that you have mastery over your sadness. Okay? Sadness is something that we all feel. Okay? You can't, when is it that you feel sad? Loss. You know, a lot of your sadness is connected with loss. Okay? Loss of something that you like and you don't have, or loss of people. That's what actually leads to sadness. Okay? Now, when you do something, this is something which is very important to recognize. Okay? When Gita is talking about handling that sorrow, it does not talk about eliminating the emotion of sadness. Okay? Emotion of sadness, is something which, just as fear, it is inbuilt. The human brain has to distinguish between wedding and a funeral. You can't have a brain which is insensitized to these two events and say I'm the same. That same is madness. Right? You cannot make that insensitized person as wise person. You can't. Okay? I will give you an example. If you don't understand this accurately, the kind of harm that is done. I think I must have told in this class, I don't know which class, I don't know. But there was this, while we were living in Bangkok, there was this young kids, they lost their father who had gone to Europe, for some business, and he just dropped dead. And then when the body was brought, the kids were devastated. Okay? And they were crying. And then there is this so-called Pandit who is saying that, oh, you should not cry, right? Because not only you should not cry because, first they start giving you philosophy, how the body has to go one day and all. But the person is not, right now is not ready for philosophy or anything, is undergoing an emotional trauma, right? Then the second thing they say, which is even worse, and is that the departed is looking at you, right? So if you're crying, you are upsetting that person, so don't do that. So not only you are not letting the person feel the emotions and grieve, which is so necessary, okay? You're creating a guilt feeling.
Yeah.
All in the name of spirituality, so much nonsense goes on. Okay? So therefore, the first thing is, in that event, you can't but be sad. That is sanity. Okay? So therefore, because it is a big event, to brush away or to denial of emotion is one of the biggest problems. And in the name of spirituality, lots of denial of emotions take place. That's why it makes people more subjective than before. Objectivity means recognizing those emotions and what? Dealing with them appropriately. That is what we call objectivity. Okay? So therefore, when the sadness comes, what is objective? First step of objectivity is don't try to brush it away. Stay with your emotion. Okay? Certain emotional grieving is necessary. Okay? That is leading to psychological health. I have known people who have not grieved for some major events, right? I had a couple and their very young child passed away and they had other children, so they wanted the other kids not to feel anything. Okay? So they put up this whole big brave front and they did not grieve. They did not grieve, right? What happened to wife, what happened to husband was he became diabetic. Because all the emotional stress, when it is not expressed, but it all comes in your body. Okay? The other person, the mother, she had some kind of an emotional block. Emotional block in a way that she is unable to express any emotions. Because when there is a huge sadness and you have blocked it,
Block everything else also.
Exactly.
You can't block one and
You
not
can't,
block.
absolutely. You can't just block one. You have to block everything. So imagine now this mother lives with an emotional block for rest of her life. So therefore, the kids, they need the mother who's cheerful and who's not just like playing always like that. You can't. They need mother who will, show lots of physical care and talk to them and, express things and all. When you create a block, you are unable to, you don't even recognize. Interact healthy. Most of the time, this kind of a people, they are not able to talk about themselves. They're not able to express how they feel. Sometimes they're not even in touch. Because every time a feeling comes, what? It's all pushed. They overcompensate by what? Using their cognitive mind. So they are very intelligent. Some of them can be very intelligent. Okay? So that means that compensation happens. They operate only from their cognitive side, blocking their emotional side. This is not what we call objectivity. Objectivity, the definition you have to change. Objectivity does not mean without emotions. Emotions are not interference to objectivity. When a situation calls for expression of emotions, and if you don't express those emotions, you are not objective. Okay? So therefore, the definition of objectivity is there is a place for your cognitive life and there is a place for your emotional life. And a healthy human being is somebody who's not operating only from one and overcompensating one and overlooking the other. Okay? Recognition of both and right usage of each one in specific situation is what we call objectivity. Okay? So that means dukkha sanyoga viyoga means once you recognize your emotions, give them appropriate expression, and at the same time what? Not get totally drowned in that emotion, but what? After having expressed, help yourself, use your free will to help yourself to do something constructive is something which is what we call dukkha sanyoga viyoga. Express that, acknowledge it, and move on. Use your free will. Okay? Because otherwise, the emotion manages you, you don't manage the emotion. Okay? So this is where I have seen there are another person who also went through similar kind of a loss of a child, and what she did after grieving, okay, she started a big institute to help children. She started small, but now it has become big. So that means she grieved and then she did something constructive to heal herself. This choice you have, either to block it or to not at all but emotionally block it, or let it come on your physical thing, or pity yourself for the rest of your life, get into depression, or do something meaningful. That choice everybody has. Okay. Dukkha sanyoga viyoga. What is wisdom?
Yeah, it's
Wisdom.
always about having the clarity to see what is next.
To create this balance, to achieve the balance.
Balance is
Emotions don't try to ignore. They manage them. Okay. And don't be, yeah, exactly. You know, the minute you try not to, and then after that grieving, if you use your free will to say now, okay, now what? What can I do with this? I need to heal myself because I am hurt. What can I do which is constructive to heal myself? And many people who have achieved amazing things, they have undergone some major blows, right? But they have used it constructively. And then you see their eyes, they are shining.
Does that pain inside go away ever?
So over a period of time. This is
Does
why I say there is
go away
a lot
that
of
pain
emotional
that-
life. That very deep pain goes away.
Does?
Okay? Yeah. Very deep pain
The
goes
sadness stays.
away.
There will be some
exactly.
amount of sadness
That
that
will
will
miss
that
that
nobody
person
can
or
eliminate.
whatever.
Yeah.
That you
Nobody
learn to
can-
live with.
that you have to
Cannot.
learn to live with.
I think there is
Absolutely.
sadness
But
that
you
is part of
manage,
life.
and that's where also you pray.
That's why.
That is also really good. So that I am feeling very sad, and there is some deep sadness which I am unable to get rid of. Help me. That also you can do. Let me see the order. Let me see the why. That is true. There is psychological order which causes this. Then let me help myself. All this you have to use your brain. Prayer is a very important. Help yourself with your helplessness. So this is what is called that person manages one's emotional life, fears and sadness. And over a period of time, the strength of the emotions don't go, right? The strength of that emotion, the deepness of that emotion starts, you feel yourself. This is what we call healing yourself. And what also happens is that you are constantly proactive. So this is what he is saying. So that is sa nishchayena yogtavyaha yogo nirvigna chetasa. So that means a life, a person who has come to Vedanta or Bhagavad Gita is growing. What is human growth? Okay? Atma is already free. It's already free from every affliction. What is this, all this human growth? That Gita is talking about. It is for that person who wants to understand that final reality. With a mind which is afflicted by all kinds of, distortions, cannot understand that reality and align one's living to that reality. So that is what we call the whole pursuit of Gita or Vedanta is self-discovery, which is knowing yourself to be Brahman, and secondly is self, which is something that you need to initiate. It does not happen automatically. Okay. Now, the next verses, now there is a shift in the topic. Up to now, what Krishna was talking about is Arjuna had a fundamental problem. So he was talking about the nature of I. He was also then talking about Karma Yoga, the whole attitude towards the action which will help Arjuna to understand this reality. Talked about meditation practices. Talked about the kind of person who is eligible for this knowledge, right? So the whole focus was where I, the person. Now, from 7th chapter onwards, the focus of Gita changes slightly. Okay? And the focus of next 7 chapters is Ishvara. You need to understand what is Ishvara accurately, and you need to dwell on what is that reality. What is Ishvara? Okay? So the next few verses talk about the nature of Ishvara. That we will see. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Guru Namaha. Hare